there's some people over there, some owners going, hey, Launch Pointe's doing something. What could we do? And if that comes to fruition, then the next property will do the same. And then the next. It's just the natural cycle of capitalism and business and people saying, hey, how do we be better? How do we keep up? And all of that will play into a bigger picture where Lake Elsinore, and when I retire in 20 years, is going to be completely different than I could possibly imagine right now.
Welcome to the Venue RX. On this show, we document and share best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues.
What's up, everyone? Jonathan here with the Venue RX, and today we have, actually, I'm not entirely sure how we're going to be releasing this, but we have the first of the recordings that we're doing with some of the owners and operators of the venues that we work with. And I am super excited about that because we get to hear kind of the backstories of some of the venues that we actually work at and with, and why they're here today and how they got started. And so to that end, Beau Davis, thank you so much for coming on today. This is going to be awesome.
Hey, Jonathan, thanks for having me. I'm super excited. Love working with you guys. So when you told me about the opportunity, I was like, absolutely. I'd love to be on and talk about our processes and how y'all helped us, and just the whole gamut of what being an operator of venue entails. Was foreign to me to start, but we'll get into that later. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, well, you have been incredible to work with as well, and just a powerhouse in terms of what you're doing with the city of Lake Elsinore. From a community services perspective, as I've seen you and interacted with you, you're definitely thinking outside the box. You're an outside the box thinker. You're progressive in terms of finding other opportunities, ways to bring the community in, finding ways to really activate the space. And it's been inspiring to me to kind of get to work with you and hear some of those things that you want to do, hear your ideas and hear how you're pushing forward. So it's been great.
I appreciate it. And honestly, it comes from having conversations like this with people like yourself. It comes from just being, friendly and inviting and welcoming. We met just by happenstance at a rehearsal dinner at another wedding. I was like, oh, I do this, you do. Hey, nice talking to you. When you come out of your shell and you start talking to people and like listening to what maybe their experiences were, you'd be amazed at what ideas. We get so many cool ideas from just random people coming through our property, through the resort, and just walking down the street or at a rehearsal dinner. So I think that's what's most valuable to just the real networking, the real genuine conversations is where all that comes from. It's not just me. I'm not some genius child. I wish, because I'd probably, be on a beach somewhere right now. But I'll take what I got for now, for sure.
Hey, you've got a beach right there in Elsinore. It's a beautiful lake.
Yeah.
And so we'll get into that and Lake Elsinore, what you do there soon. But I'm curious, take me back a little bit. What were you doing prior to? So maybe we can start with Texas, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Born and raised in Texas, came out to Southern California after college, after working on a dude ranch and working in the service industry and kind of hosting city slickers on a farm on a big ranch out in West Texas, summer camps, and then yours, of course, weddings and events and functions, if you could get as remote as we were. I kind of parlayed all that experience and education into a career in the city of just south of the city of Murrieta, primarily in recreation services. But we dabbled in some venue stuff, which we can get into later. We had an equestrian park that we started hosting events and weddings at. And in late 2014, there was an opportunity just north of that town in Lake Elsinore to work primarily in recreation. So brought me out here and into Lake Elsinore, and the growth personally, but more so the city since that late 2014 to where we are today has been incredible. And it's opened up like amazing opportunities, not just for me personally, but for the residents and for visitors of Lake Elsinore and exposure of Lake Elsinore. So yeah, just a really quick, because you don't want to hear all the boring stuff on the farm, but what we want to get into today as far as like where we're going as a city and that vision. I'm super excited to talk about Launch Pointe, and we'll say Launch Pointe many, many times, because that is what's really created so much in our community as far as tourism and opportunities for really high class, high skill experiences in a community that didn't always have that same reputation of like, wow, this is high class. So this feels like a real resort, a real escape. And that's a quick journey to where we are today. Who knows what the future is? I mean, I can only imagine with what we've done so far with where we'll be in 10, 20 years. So
yeah, it's been incredible. And you said 2014. I realized this is 10 years, right?
It is. This December will be 10 years I've been at Lake Elsinore. It's been a wild journey. We went from 5 full-time employees. I think we're at 16 just for our department. 16 full-time employees in 10 years. And we're all still stretched today. We could probably add another 3 or 4. But for now, we're course is straight. We're on the right path, and we're just trying to develop each division and each kind of smaller sector to be the best it can, and then kind of metastasize into something else.
We'll dive in more to Launch Pointe in a second, because I love what you guys have done, obviously, and we've been a part of that for the last, it feels like a long time, but it's been a year, right?
Yeah, just over a year and a half, probably. Yeah. Started talking almost 2 years ago. Years of government take a little while. But yeah, officially in contract over a year and a couple months.
Yeah. And it's been so great. I've seen it grow. It is incredible what Launch Pointe is doing. That resort is doing. I mean, it's a resort, it's an RV campground, but none of those things, I think, none of those words actually like give you the full breadth of what it is. So we'll get into that in a second. But I'm curious, you mentioned the spot in just south of Marietta before, and kind of had that as a venue space. Where did the venue idea come from? Or like, why, what's with, because, you're in community services. There's a lot of ways that you could take that, and many people don't take that in the wedding and events direction. So where was the inspiration? Where did it come from for that initial foray?
Right. So there was a historic horse property. I think like Lady Bird Johnson had kept some thoroughbreds out there. Here is an old town, very country, Western chic. They wanted to keep those roots. And there's this really awesome property that the city was able to obtain at a really, amazing rate. And when we got that, the community services team kind of was just discussing what could we do with it. There are people that would utilize the corrals and the arena. And we had done some developments to really focus on that, small time horse shows, little equestrian events. But there was these beautiful old, horseshoe stables that it was a stud farm. So it actually, they bred thoroughbreds there. And it was this beautiful horseshoe with these awesome pepper trees, California peppers, rose bushes, old adobe bricks. It was just picturesque. Exactly what you would think of an old world equestrian farm. And then there were 3 houses that were also on the property from previous barn managers. And then a really cool old indoor kind of barn. So there was many different features there. And I think as our team started going around and we started making like, okay, this corral's cool and this, arena is great. We'll use it for this. But what are we going to do with this space? We've done things like archery. They had done archery out there, some police dog agilities and training. So it was just kind of a catch-all for places that didn't really have some kind of home. And it was a little off the beaten path. But eventually some team members started talking like, man, like we could definitely host events out here. Well, what kind of events? And I'm getting married soon. So how about a wedding? What would that look like? And so we started taking little event interests and saying, well, how about you try this? What does this look like? How about you try that? What does this look like? And then we would adjust and kind of improve areas that needed to be improved. And I know I was one of the first weddings, personally, working in the city of Marietta. I was like, you're young, you're broke. How much money are you going to spend on a wedding? Wineries out here are crazy expensive. And we're looking at a super budget friendly spot. And luckily the city was able to give me a pretty good rate on it. And at that time we were still developing, what does it even cost? What are we going to provide people? Well, and so we got it a great deal, and we're able to really kind of test the facility. I personally was out there digging trenches to hang market lights. Then it's like, hey, I'm just going to leave it there so the city can have it, and just trying different things. And we had some great successful weddings, mine included. It was amazing. And even a couple people that attended our wedding also got married there because of it. And so as more and more weddings and events started happening, it started getting more and more popular, but the city never adjusted what did it look like. What were the policies? What were the procedures? What was the start times and end times? What was the noise? How did it impact negatively or positively the neighbors around it? Because there were still decent sized branches with homeowners out there. So they never really addressed those until all of a sudden it came to a head. Crazy ruckus wedding, went really late, loud, trash, all the bad things that could happen happened in a couple weeks span at multiple weddings. And, once you make residents angry, they know who to go to, and they went in full force and said, no more. So unfortunately, if I was a neighbor, maybe I'd feel the same way. But unfortunately, that venue has ceased to exist. It's only an equestrian area. The building, unfortunately, my wife and I like to visit every year. Most years, we haven't gone every year in the last couple, but most years we like to just walk out there. It's still a public park, essentially. And so we go there and walk around and just kind of play our wedding song and dance underneath the trees. It's just kind of an homage to on our anniversary date. But unfortunately, no one else can get married there. Unfortunately, that facility that the city could have made a glorious amount of revenue. But even just aside, many, many hundreds of memories of being like, Murrieta, that's where I got married. Murrieta is special. Murrieta is this. And because cities don't always know how to manage crises, they, or how to, adapt quickly to what's happening in the industry or what's happening at a facility. It's unfortunately died. I don't know if it'll ever come back. I don't really speak to them about that. My former colleagues down there, but it is kind of going by the wayside, and a once beautiful historic site with historic thoroughbreds from Lady Bird Johnson, it's just kind of getting, dilapidated over the years. But anyway, so that's kind of like some challenges I see in municipality space. They don't really understand what is a venue and what could a venue be. It's oftentimes, it's a community center. Yeah, get married in the community center. Have your quinceañera, or have this. And it's just kind of, a second thought where it could be, if it was your first thought, what could it be? And then what could that, again, I'm going to use that word, metastasize. What could it grow into for the community and for, the city?
Yeah, it's super, super cool to hear you think about it like that, because I think we have this very interesting thing that's happened in the venue world and the event space, which is you used to, get married at the church, and maybe you had something in the, a church auxiliary room or something after, and then it kind of evolved from that. And just speaking, from my experiences as well in Texas, growing up in Fort Worth, that's kind of the church. It was a church wedding. You'd have a church wedding, or you'd go, somewhere else like an event hall. And so you'd have these event halls, these banquet halls, or you go to the hotel, right? And so it was either hotels or churches. And then it really shifted. And now it's like, you could go to a barn, you could go to, all these different places. But the problem with those places many times now they aren't correctly permitted. And, I know that's less of an issue, in some states where there's not as many, rules and zoning and things like that. But a lot of that stuff in California, is there for a good reason. There's occupancy, there's fire code, there's different things. And I think that cities really have an incredible advantage when it comes to that, because they have the connections and the resources, and they know who to call for some of these things to get approvals on stuff. And, if they were thinking in that way, there's really probably a lot of opportunity. I mean, not just for Murrieta and clearly what you've done at Launch Pointe, but for other, cities and community centers as well, to kind of take that next step and really make it an intentional event space.
No, you're totally right. I think that is the trend for everyone. I haven't been to a wedding lately. We're after that phase where I'm more on the babies and the kids and birthdays. Man, when I was in the heart of it, everyone was looking for that next unique thing. And one of my most favorite was one of my wife's friends in Northern California. And it was like an old monk monastery, and everyone stayed there for the weekend. And I had a glorious time. I didn't know any of these people, but we're best friends by the end, right? You're spending 2.5 days together. It's like, this was epic. You got to hang out with the bride and groom longer. You got to spend more time. And it really was one of my most favorite weddings. And I still think about it and play some of the games they taught me when we were there. And so I take that experience and it's what we've kind of talked about. It's like, that's what I want Launch Pointe to be. It is a resort. There are lodging opportunities. How do we get people to not just have one wedding? Heck, generations, thousands of years ago, weddings were a long time. There was water turned into wine because a wedding went so long, So like, there's so much more possibility instead of these like, okay, come in, have your wedding, 4 hours later, see you later. And I think more and more people are saying, I'm going to invest the money, but I'm going to invest the time. And this is going to be like the photographers, videographers, all these people traveling. How do we maximize that time? And I think that's where the trend is going personally. I've seen it executed successfully, and we're really kind of hammering that home, obviously, at Launch Pointe, trying to see how do we get more people. Your event's not 4 hours, your event is 48 hours. And then that just drives more people, more revenues, and just more memories.
Hey there, pardon the interruption. I wanted to share with you about WEVA. WEVA stands for Wedding and Event Venue Association, and it's a brand new association just for venue owners and operators that we launched last year. It's been growing quickly since then, and we would love to offer an invitation to you to be a part of it. WEVA is an association that is purpose-built for venue owners and operators to provide community, education, and networking opportunities just for our industry. We have a number of different resources, including networking, co-working events, local meetups, and all sorts of different things. We will be having a large yearly event as well. We would love to have you part of the community, so please consider joining. We do have a link in the description below, or we will be linking it wherever you're listening to this. So please click on the link, check it out, and we would love to see you inside of WEVA.
Yeah, amazing. So let's talk about Launch Pointe. It's a beautiful segue into it. For anyone who hasn't, and we're going to put links, to everything in both YouTube and all the places that it's available, but Launch Pointe itself, can you just describe it for any of our audio listeners? What is it like? Kind of give us, maybe start outside the gates, and then as you drive in, what are we looking at?
Yeah, so Launch Pointe is a historic campground from the state of California from the 50s. It was eventually, it's right on the shores on the north side of Lake Elsinore, which is the largest natural freshwater lake in Southern California. Lake Elsinore is a long-standing city, 130 plus years. And for many years, if you're not familiar with Southern California, Lake Elsinore had a negative reputation. It just kind of went through the ups and downs of, management, poor management. And over the last decade and a half, there's been an upswing in kind of fixing the problems or fixing the perception of not just the body of water, which has had negative connotations, but the residents, and then the involuntary residents, people that are unhoused or going through transitional periods of life, or suffering from other kind of mental illnesses that may not be in a home. And that was what Lake Elsinore is known for. And so the city made a conscious effort and said, an investment, saying, we want to invest in our own city. We're not just asking developers to come and spend their money here and make Lake Elsinore. Where's the city? You're going to take a risk and we're going to invest. And so as you drive down a highway, Highway 74, Riverside Drive, there are some dilapidated buildings. And actually over the last couple of years, 2 or 3 that had been torn down because they got so dilapidated. So as you're approaching our resort, you may think, if you're from an outside community, you may think, honey, did we make a wrong turn? Check that map, please. Which is completely understandable. We get that. And that's why the city invested it. So as you approach our gates, you're going to be greeted with a beautiful, overwhelming sign welcoming you to an escape. Launch Pointe, right? We want you to launch your adventures here. It's, we call it the ultimate recreation destination. So we want you to come in, pull in those gates and be like, did I go to land of the lost? Was there an earthquake? Did I go in the crack? So you come in greeted by beautiful rose bushes, Tuscany pines, all that. And we want you to experience Lake Elsinore the way the city is envisioning it in the future. So that the city, talking about that investment, circling back there in 2017, said, hey, we're going to make an investment. And it was been a $20+ million investment to completely reimagine this campground that sat, in disrepair for many years with minor users of it. So they completely overhauled it. I have to say, everything you see is brand new except for some of the trees, and most of the trees are new. It sits in 100-plus-year-old pecan grove. So there's still many of the pecan trees, fruit-producing trees there. And then all of the layout, the infrastructure is all new. And so you have really escaped to a brand new historic park, a park that's been there since the 50s. People still call it the recreation area at Lake Elsinore, which is the old state name. And so we completely rebranded. And when you're inside, I can't tell you how many people, including myself, how many people come and go, man, I don't feel like I'm in Lake Elsinore. I feel like when, especially sitting in our venue, hopefully you show a picture, link that picture where you're on the venue, you're looking out over the lake and it's a beautiful sunset, sunrise. You're having that glass of wine, you're kissing your bride at the right time in the ceremony. And you're like, wow, this place is beautiful. And that's what we created. That's what the team created. And we're excited every single time someone comes in and says, I don't feel like I'm in Lake Elsinore, but we hope one day, because of all the development that's happened since Launch Pointe went in which is the city can show all these businesses that have gone up, improved their buildings, or putting in applications to develop, or because of what we've done at Launch Pointe. We hope people not only say, man, I don't feel like I'm in Lake Elsinore when they're inside our gates, but eventually, as they're driving down Riverside, you go, this doesn't remind me of Lake Elsinore. This is an awesome new place.
Yeah. And over time, I mean, the reputation changes, the memories, and largely it's because of the memories that get made. And I think Launch Pointe and what you do there. So you talked a little bit about, there's a event space, obviously, there's the drive-in, but you guys have, there's the Vintage Village, you've got yurts, you've got so many different, and you're right on the water. So you've got a boat launch. There's like a pretty wild looking, water. What is that? What is a water obstacle course?
We're doing it's an inflatable obstacle course on the water. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. You've got that. I mean, there's so many different things to do, and it's community focused. So obviously the Lake Elsinore community and, many people I know who live in Lake Elsinore, they live right off that drive, right? That's right there across the street. And it's incredible because you talked about memories before, and you even talked just now about, having that glass of wine or kissing your bride, at the right time during the ceremony. People get that experience when they're on a boat, right? Just taking off, or they get that experience when they're in the yurts and they're seeing, the beautiful views that are right outside of that, or going to a concert. So there's just so much that you guys are doing, and you're in the throes of it right now because just jumping into summer. What are some of the things that you guys are doing there at Launch Pointe?
We're, like you said in the beginning, we're always looking for ways to adapt and other ways to, it's still a business. So Launch Pointe, while it is a city facility, it's operated as an enterprise fund. So it's supposed to, and it does, make all the money that it expenses, we have to make in our revenues. So we're always looking at ways to increase our revenues. So that way the general fund is never touched by it. So it's operated independently as a business. It is a community resource, but our community members still have to invest to be there. So it's not just your tax dollars. It's another investment on top of that. So you want to come in and you want to boat, you want to park, you want to play, you want to stay. Well, there's a fee associated. But we still offer free resources to our community. So like the concert series, prime example. We host a free concert series 4 Thursdays in July. This year, we're going to kick it off in June, a little bit earlier since 4th of July is on a Thursday. So we offer free concerts. Great bands. Come on out, bring your chairs, enjoy some vendors and some music. We'll offer other kind of themed holiday events. We've done haunted houses and other kind of open houses. Come check out the venue. Come check out the vintage trailers. Yeah, people love the vintage trailers, but they don't even know what they look like inside, even though we have 3D tours online, but they still want to see it physically in 3D themselves. So we try and offer opportunities for people to experience Launch Pointe without having to stay, but we have to remind them at times that this is still a business and there's just still people staying here. So unfortunately, while you may want to go to our splash pad or our playground or just go play on the grass, we can't let you do that because these people are paying guests and they have exclusive rights to this. But here's the Here's the public portions at a nominal rate. Go come to the restaurant that's there that we're always improving upon. Come to the restaurant. Come listen to some live music on Friday night. Free parking, decent food, great food, great prices, good drinks. Yeah, have a great time, But yeah, it's a really cool place that there's so much to do, and we're always looking at adding more.
Beau, one of the things that I'm really thankful for, but also really proud of so far is the way that, well, I'll say what I'm proud of first, and I'll add your team in here, but the way that we've been able to work together to kind of keep, because you did mention there's a number of different businesses, and it is enterprise focused. So you have a restaurant, you've got, and these are all different vendors. We're the wedding vendor, right? You guys are doing all the resort stuff and managing everything there. You've got another vendor that does boating, vendor that does, same vendor that does, the restaurant, but
they weren't previously. So
exactly. Yeah. And so I think it's a real testament to the caliber of people and yourself who are working there, because it is no easy feat for that communication to happen, for that coordination to happen, especially in high stress moments where you got some folks yelling at you for this, or you got some music turned up over there. And that's one of the things that I think, just a huge kudos to you guys and the team you've put together there, because I know it's not easy. And then adding in all these different people and personalities, that's amazing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It takes a lot of work, and we don't get it right all the times. I mean, if you pretend like you get it right all the time, then you messed up, right? You have to be humble, and you have to admit mistakes. One of the things I feel like our mantra has been like, find ways to say yes. Like, does it cost money? If it's a no, then all right, you're probably gonna be able to do it. Is it gonna inconvenience or hurt someone else? If it's a no, then you're probably gonna be able to get away with it. So if you can find ways to say yes, then I think everyone gets along. And that's like when it's in the throes, and Common Sense Events teams is calling us like, hey, I know we didn't talk about this, but can we get some help doing this? Well, yeah, we're going to find ways to say yes, because your success is our success, all of that. It all plays together. And I think that's what's been great, is we have found the right partners each time. We've been lucky and blessed to meet you guys. We've been lucky and blessed to meet the others. And as long as we all understand it, we all benefit each other, and no one's out just looking for their own. That's when you start, creating division and things don't work well. And that's when negative reviews begin. You drop off in bookings. So as long as we're all like, hey, back of the house can be a little messy sometimes. That's okay. But front of the house, hey, what do you need? We got you.
Yep. And your front of the house team right there at the beginning, when you're first driving in, does a great job of that. Fielding everything from pointing folks in the right direction. Hey, I'm here for a wedding, or I'm here for camping or boating or whatever. And that's one of the things. So I think for anyone listening to this, whether you're, currently working with a city, or if you have a venue that you're looking at maybe purchasing or building or something like that, communication is really key. But in terms of the kind of scheduling and doing multiple things on the property. And we have a meeting coming up, right? I think we just got it on the calendar.
Yeah.
To talk about this and how we juggle, campers and the people who've reserved the community hall, and like, how do we act in integrity and create an amazing experience and a win for all of those without stepping on people's toes? Are there some things that you found work in the past in terms of how you approach those conversations? And one more thing on that, just positioning it in a way for a church or for like another community center, because there will be community events going on. There will be church services going on. There will be other things, a horse breeding or whatever.
Right.
How do all those things, how's the communication happen that you found to be most effective?
Well, the first part is, how do we minimize inconveniences and increase communication? I mean, I'll say that just keeping an open mind again, trying to find ways, how do I get people there, and being reasonable. You can't always stick to just like, this is black and white policy. Sometimes you got to adjust. And again, it doesn't hurt someone. It doesn't cause an inconvenience to someone else. It doesn't cost money. It's probably a really easy yes. So find that ways, find solutions to problems. And that's basically my job. I say any individual could probably do the black and white portion of my job. It's that gray area when you go, all right, how how do I navigate this? How do we get everyone to the same? And then just coming at everyone with an attitude of humility and just like, hey, we're on the same team here. We're experiencing this challenge right now, and y'all are experiencing this challenge. How do we make it both work or prioritize one over the other? The minute you come in, it's like, nope, my way or the highway, my way or the highway. You'll never communicate with that person. That person's never going to communicate with you. Whether it's about politics or your own venue space, you'll never get through to them, or baseball tees. So it's like you got to have that ability to be flexible. And then how to position it in, like, honestly, if you're building a new venue or you're opening one or you're trying to find ways to work, I wish I could go back in 2017 and talk to the developers and the architects and like, hey, think about separating this venue out, because that's our challenge. Like, that's something we're going to be talking about. And what we always challenge is like, we have this beautiful event venue right in the middle of our RV resort. It's amazing. But unfortunately, RV campers that aren't participating in the wedding don't want to intermingle, and the wedding people don't typically want to intermingle with the others. So I would say try your hardest to keep some kind of ground separated, and then you don't have to worry about those overlaps. But when you do have to, if you can't do it like we can't, we can't change it. It's there. Then you have to just find alternatives and just openly communicate. We try our hardest with email to guests as they're coming in, signage as they're rolling up, signage at the front of the building. We do our best to just say, hey, look, we're going to make it clear. You get 40 parking passes, whatever the case may be, just really upfront, black and white. Here's what we're going to do for you. We'll make some adjustments when we can, but when we can't, we're sorry. This is the messaging we have. So build it somewhere else. Keep it separate as much as possible, but also be flexible. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. I love you brought up the be flexible part. And it's been awesome because from our team's perspective, we're handling some of the marketing, but then we're doing, sales, we're doing the operations of actually running the event. But we are right in the dead center of this whole space. So if it was constantly difficult to work one or the other, the partnership just wouldn't work out as well, because we constantly be at each other. And I haven't seen that, and I feel like we're really blessed, Jazz out there, working with Joanna and Erica, and just the team members who are there making these events happen. These are memories that we're making for people. These are families that are growing. These are just, we've got the quinceañeras, and then we've got some of these different social events as well, birthday parties. And so it's been really, really neat.
It really is about the people, because we've had some people that haven't loved that flexibility. And it's just about finding the right team. I mean, mentioning Jazz, she's blown it out of the water. It's like, and she gets, and we get it, hey, we could do more if we adjusted this policy. We could do more for you, for us, for these guests, if we just adjusted this. And then it comes back to our team. Hey, how does this affect or, positively or negatively the other experiences? And just, I like to throw things against the wall, throw ideas, figure out where it sticks, poke holes in the plan, whatever, metaphor you want to use. But you got to explore everything. And if you don't explore, you're not going to grow.
Exactly. And I love that you said also, if it doesn't hurt anyone, if it doesn't, if it's not going to cost some money, some of those things, if it's an issue of rerouting something, or, hey, we're just going to put up a sign, or instead of putting the sign there, we're going to put it over here so that we get people, that's huge.
Yeah. Don't ask me. And I just got tired, eventually when I was really in the throes of being at the resort daily between 2020 and 2022, I would get asked all the simplest questions. And again, talking with someone, having an open conversation, this guy goes, hey, I had this policy when I worked at a retail store, ask 3 and then me. And I'm like, that's brilliant. I'm getting tired of like the simple questions. You have 2-3 other people you can ask. So I implemented that policy. Ask 3, then me. So don't come ask me, can I move the sign? I've empowered you to say, does it hurt anyone? Does it inconvenience anyone? Does it cost money? No? Yeah, do the sign. We'll adjust it if we have to, but go do it. Or you ask 3 and then you ask me, because I think you're going to get quality answers from these people that are above you in the chain before you get to the final say.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Beau, thank you so much for coming on the show today. When you think about the future, I think this could kind of just be fun. We'll see how it goes, because I'm curious, just like a question that came to me. When you think about with what Launch Pointe's doing, the direction that Launch Pointe is kind of pushing the city and putting in our roadmap. And I mean, it's ideal location being right next to Orange County and some of those different things. What do you feel like is in store for Launch Pointe from a events standpoint, and maybe even just how the community in full utilizes the space, I guess is what I'm looking for.
Launch Pointe, we're only looking to be bigger and better. We've got spaces that are underperforming revenue wise that we've identified, and we've secured funding and developing plans for those to make bigger event spaces. I want 400 people there. I want exclusive areas where I can take that memory of the monastery up in Northern California and then do the same thing there, where you're in this gate, no one from the outside can get in. This is your space. You pay $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 for this space, and you got 400 people there for you. Like that, who does that? Not many people have that opportunity. I want to be the ones that people go across the country. I want to go to Launch Pointe. See how cheap that is comparatively, right? If I'm going to get married if I'm going to spend that money, if someone's going to spend that money, someone doing a 400 person wedding is probably going to be spending $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, Anyways, but if we can do it all in-house, one-stop shop, and you can do it over the course of 2 days, I think people would be beating down the door. So that's one of my big visions there. And then we have another 10 acres to the west of us that I want to create another escape. I want people to be enticed to go to the next level of Launch Pointe. Launch Pointe is where it's at currently, but what if we made a VIP? Everyone always wants to be a little special. I want to be special. What does it cost to go to first class today? Oh, 100? Okay, I'll go to 100. How many people do that? A lot of people do that. So if you have the abilities, like, we want to give you the options, but right now there's not the option if you have that ability. So I think there's a demand there just based on bookings and where people have commented. So that's what I'm going to see. And then ultimately, if we look globally for Lake Elsinore, not just what we're doing inside our resort, but there's an RV resort to the east of us and an RV resort to the west of us. I want them to be Launch Pointe. I want them to have the same elevation, because when we grow, the rising tide lifts all boats, right? 100%. We want everyone to be that way. And who knows what it could be? There's a boardwalk between resorts, you think about Maui's and those kind of things. People can walk from resort to resort to resort. How do we do that in Lake Elsinore? I can't put a sidewalk on theirs, but if they go, well, if I connect one to you and you connect one to me, we'll meet in the middle. I think that's completely possible. I think it may take some time, but to be, a little, discreet, but also kind of say, like, people to the west are actually looking at something pretty awesome. I've seen some conceptual things, and it's formally a pretty rundown, undesirable location, even as neighbors of ours. But there's some people over there, some owners are going, hey, Launch Pointe's doing something. What could we do? And if that comes to fruition, then the next property will do the same. And then the next. It's just the natural cycle of capitalism and business and people saying, hey, how do we be better? How do we keep up? And all of that will play into a bigger picture where Lake Elsinore, and when I retire in 20 years, is going to be completely different than I could possibly imagine right now.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. Well, thank you so much for having us be part of the ride. It's been great so far, and I'm really looking forward to saying, having that meeting coming up. We're going to be doing it pretty frequently, but just continuing the partnership that we have and thinking, how can we do this better? How can we include more things? Because we're really aligned on that. We want to be doing a better and better job and be more and more forward thinking in terms of how we're being hospitable there and partnering with you guys. So
yeah, absolutely. And if I could just say one thing, one key thing that I've learned since we took over as a department in 2020, right at the beginning of COVID, we had to get rid of a concessionaire. And so internally we said, all right, we're in charge of everything. And I'm trying to book this venue out, right? Even with the COVID stuff in 21 and 22, it's like, don't be afraid to admit that you're not the best person for something. And I think that's what I've learned, especially when it comes to the venue. I was not the best person to show the venue. I was not the best person to sell a bride or a groom on what their vision was, but I was the one that was in that position because that's what we had to do. And that's what prompted us to think, who else could do this? What else? And so when someone mentioned something casually, oh, what does that mean? I'm going to explore that further. I think if we think we can do it all, we're going to find out we can't. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but one day you'll find out you can't. And I think it's worthy to sacrifice a little in the long run to get the right team in there. And if you force someone to do something, you're probably not going to get the same results. But if someone's passionate and desirable about something, you're going to see a way better end result and package based on that desire to perform rather than the force to perform and the force to do something. So that would be my closing words, is like, don't be opposed to thinking you're not the number one person to sell your space or to sell an area or an amenity. So keep an open mind is all.
Yeah, delegation is absolutely huge, and I love that, man. Well, Beau, thanks so much for coming on. This is great. Folks connect with you on LinkedIn. Is that probably a good spot?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm really taking this hiatus from social media, but of course I am on LinkedIn. You can find me on there, but really go check out Launch Pointe, launch-pointe.com. We're fancy, so we spell it with an E, Pointe.com. I'm on there. I'm with the city of Lake Elsinore. We're super excited to be a part of this and excited that y'all are a part of Launch Pointe. But if you wanted to connect and ask more questions, it's just Beau Davis as it's spelled under LinkedIn. And I'll definitely get back to you, or bdavis@lake-elsinore.org. bdavis@lake-elsinore.org. And hit me up. I'd be more than happy to respond or call.
Cool. Amazing. Beau, this has been a pleasure. This has been so great. Thanks for coming on, and I'll see you very soon.
Cool. Thanks, Jonathan. Take care, man.
Hey friends, Jonathan here, and I wanted to share about Common Sense Events consulting packages. If you are a venue owner and you're struggling with your marketing, your sales, your operations, or maybe there's just, you're new to the industry and you want to really have a leg up and get a jump start on getting your business going and not make a lot of the mistakes that oftentimes people make, the mistakes that we made, frankly, when we first started, we would love to chat with you and see if there's a way that we can serve you. Our team has experience working with over 10 venues all across the United States, doing consulting. We've hosted hundreds and hundreds of weddings at this point, and we know what it takes to be successful. If this sounds interesting to you, we would love to chat with you. You can either reach out by filling out the link in the description of the video or podcast, or you can just email us at venues@cseventservices.com, and we would love to chat with you and see if there's a way that we can serve you. All right, back to the show.